I'm back. See, I am feeling sad. And the thing that makes me feel happy when I'm feeling sad is making stuff. And so I've had this Altoids container that's been not sponsored, by the way. I've had this Altoids container sitting in my car. It's empty. For a while, I finally brought it into the house. I'm gonna make a tiny world in my Altoids container. Think Polly Pocket, but Barbie. First, let me give you a rough sketch of what I'm thinking I'm gonna do. I want it to be 2 stories. That's it. That's all we're doing with it. I'm gonna turn on my YouTube, and I will talk you through voiceover, probably, what I'm doing with this, because I don't want to talk to you again. I love you. Just not enough to put in any effort today. Let's do it! Voiceover Becca here. I'm gonna start off by pulling out all of the supplies that I need for this project. There may be times of silence within this voiceover simply because there's not a lot for me to say. But to start off, I pulled out a lot of my scrapbook paper because I'm going to use it as wallpaper for the inside back of the tin for both the upper room and the lower room, as well as the inside of the lid. Here I'm cutting out a template that I'm going to use later to figure out the size of the floor in between both rooms, and also I'm going to use it to cut to size the paper, you'll see later, the paper for the backgrounds and the wallpaper for both rooms. For this, I figured out how I needed to cut the cardboard to fit within the container and also fit the lip of the tin itself. And then I used the same template that I had cut that cardboard shape out of to trace onto the back of my paper for the wallpaper. I decided to go with this leafy paper for the bedroom wallpaper because it's sort of pink, but it's also gold, and I think it's very pretty and it matches a bedroom aesthetic. Later for the kitchen, I'm actually going to end up gluing other paper on top of like the bottom half of this paper, which is why I didn't end up cutting this in half because I didn't want any strange gaps between the bedroom wallpaper and the kitchen wallpaper. Here I'm taking that piece of cardboard that I'm using as the floor between both rooms, and I'm just gluing it to this pink piece of paper to make it sort of look like pink carpet almost. I didn't have any sort of like actual floor textured paper, so this was as good as we're gonna get. For the kitchen, I ended up using cupcake paper because if you watch like Barbie Life in the Dream House, the cupcake machine is like a vital part of that show and a running gag. And then to fill in the rest of the tin, I cut out a strip of pink polka dotted paper, which I didn't feel clashed with a lot of the other papers or patterns because you can't really see it, but it also is very much like a Barbie vibe. And I just glued that to the inside of the tin. Here I'm cutting out another section of paper, and this one is going to fill in the inside lid of the tin. I didn't have the chance to record this part, but just with paint markers, I ended up drawing a front door, stairs between both rooms, and then I cut out a little flower section out of another piece of paper that I ended up gluing to the inside to look like a painting, and then I just drew with a gold paint marker around it to make it look like it was in a frame. In the end, I didn't end up liking the door that I drew, so I cut out a piece of cardboard that matched the same size, and I ended up gluing it to these popsicle sticks, which I'm later going to turn into a 3D door. This is where we're at so far. I glued the floor into the tin itself, and at this point it still closes, but later the tin no longer closes. I didn't end up recording the creation of these tiny cabinets for the kitchen. There's one tiny cabinet and one fridge. I went with gray because I thought it would be a good contrasting color. I do end up putting pink on the cabinets and fridge just to make it fit more with the rest of the theme. Here I'm gluing on what I consider to be the front door of the fridge, and then I go back to the front door of the build itself, and I am cutting it out of the popsicle sticks. This was supposed to be in a timed speed. It looks like it's regular speed. Whoops. All of this looks way too slow. I don't know why. It's so incredibly slow. It's unfortunate. Here I'm attaching a handle to the front of the fridge. Oh, there we, wow. Wow. I'm amazing at this editing stuff. I knew I should have watched this through before deciding it was good enough. It's fine. It's fine, you know? I ended up cutting the string off of a little pouch that I had, and it was just like gold thread that I ended up attaching to the front of this fridge to be the handle of the fridge. So that's all I'm doing with that. It was a bit of a struggle, I'm gonna be honest. It made me mad, but it's okay. Okay, moving on to the door, I decided to color it pink with these Sharpies, which I thought were different colors at first. They're not. They're the same color. They looked different. They aren't. Colored it pink, and then I went through with more detailed, like glittery pink pens later, and added like windows and I don't know what you call them, but you know, like the little, they look like paneling cutouts and doors. I added some of those too, just to make it look like an actual door and not just a piece of wood. I put a bee on the door for Barbie without thinking about it Typically, families will put like initials on the outside of their door and like wreaths and stuff. I put it on the inside of the door, which I thought about later. It was a stupid idea, but it's whatever. Yeah, I attached a like silver bead to the door to the handle, which is the same thing that I did for the kitchen cabinet. And then I brought out my glitter pens to put magnets on the side of the fridge. And you'll see later, I ended up having to cover these up with paper and draw them on again because they didn't want to stick to this material that I had used. They were still wet the next day when I checked on it again. I don't know how that works, but it did. So. I colored in the windows blue to make it look like it was looking outside and to just give the door a little bit of depth. I'm going to go ahead and glue the door into the inside cover of this tin now. This is one of the main reasons it doesn't close anymore, is because of this door, but I don't mind because it's not a big deal, and I don't need it to close, honestly. I wanted to make sure that it would close, that the door wouldn't smush any of the cabinets or the fridge, and it doesn't, but that's because it doesn't close, like, at all anymore, so. This is when I fixed the fridge and glued on a pink piece of paper, which the glittery pens stuck to better, to try and save it. That way it wouldn't get wet, glittery ink all over the place. It ended up a lot better, and it looks more like a Barbie fridge, I guess, because it's more pink than gray. I went through my stickers because I thought I had like a clock and like calendars and stuff that I could put, and I did end up finding them. This is actually later the next day, which is why my camera is so much farther from my table. You're gonna see my head a lot because I couldn't figure out how to set up my camera the same way that I had it the day before to make sure that my head wasn't in the frame, but yeah, my head's in the frame. I felt like the inside lid of the house was very flat and two-dimensional, so I ended up cutting apart another popsicle stick, which I colored about the same color as the door, and then gave it some detail with the glittery pens again to cover the original pink railing that I had done. Mostly because I wasn't happy with the way that the paint marker railing looked, and I just wanted to cover it up in some way, and this was one of the only ways I could figure out how to do it. After adding the railing, the tin wouldn't close at all. With the door, the tin would only snap shut on one side, but with the railing, it won't close at all. So, I may have to add a strap later, but I haven't yet. So, that's just gonna have to be the way that it is. I then started working on the furniture for the top room, or what was supposed to be the bedroom. I knew I wouldn't be able to make a bed at this scale, so I ended up just opting for a vanity mirror. So this is me making the vanity right now. I chose like a white and spotted pattern for the legs, and the same like wallpaper pattern or something similar for the top of the vanity. For the mirror, vanity mirror, I chose the same sort of marbled vanity top paper, and then covered it with another paper, and then scribbled all over that with a silver paint marker to be like the reflection of the mirror. The vanity and the mirror ended up being the only furniture I added to the bedroom, because I was going to go get one of those like miniature, like mini brands toys mystery balls, and see if I could get like the little Barbie doll, because I swear that they had like a Barbie doll miniature which I was gonna put in this house. I haven't ended up doing that, but I do have another figure that you'll see later I put in this house instead, and I think they match the aesthetic much better. Here I just am cutting out a smaller circle from that silver paper that I drew or colored on to match the scale, and to match the scale of the vanity that I just made, which I ended up coloring the inside pink instead of leaving it white like I had first planned on doing, mostly because it looked more Barbie-ish for it to be pink instead of white. Once I had glued that in place, that was the end of the interior decorating before I chose to go and spray it with a clear sealant. And you can see here that this is the final result of the project that we had just been working on. And this was the figure that I was talking about that ended up fitting in this house a lot better than I think a Barbie ever would. Aang is a perfect scale for this house. He actually fits a lot better than I thought he would. And I think he's very pleased to have this Barbie Polly Pocket house all to himself. I don't think I'll want to get him a companion because it may become too cramped. And with that, it's time for the beauty shots. Enjoy. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I know I didn't decorate the outside of the Altoids can, Aang's house, but I might do that in another video, or I may just leave it. Obviously this didn't turn out like the sketch that I had originally planned. It was a much smaller scale than I thought it was going to be, and a much smaller scale than I've ever worked in before. The final clear coat that I ended up putting on, or just spraying the inside of this with to protect like the mirror and whatnot, ended up, I know, messing with the stairs a little bit, and it ended up like dulling out the metallic finish on a lot of this stuff, but at least it'll be protected, you know? I know it's not as pink as Barbie would probably want, but I didn't want it to get too monochromatic. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I know this isn't like a long project and it wasn't very exciting, but at least I got another video out for you guys. So, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye!